ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रम् अतो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अनन्तगुणपूर्णत्वादगम्याय सुरैरपि सर्वेष्टदात्रे देवानां नमो नारायणाय ते. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to friends who have joined for the 10th session of Keno Upanishad, also called Talavakara Upanishad. So, let's always start with the Rishis, Chaturmukha Brahma, Sadashiva, Parvati, Talavakara Rishi, and all the Acharyas. The Chanda, the Devata for this is Vishnu Namaka Paramatma with specific mentions to Hrishikesha, Kapila, Aniruddha, and Gayatri Namaka Paramatma. The Chandas, Trishtub and Anushtub, particularly for this particular Khanda, the first Khanda. So we are in the first Khanda. So the Anushtub Chandas, as you know, has got 32 syllables. Let's also contemplate on Rohini, the consort of Chandra. And Trishtub has got 44 syllables. And we pray to Sachi, the consort of Indra. So there are 9 verses in this particular Khanda, as we will all be very familiar with already. So we have done about 1, 2, 3, 4 verses, and we are in the last 5 verses. And as you know, the last 5 verses have to be put together to understand the deep philosophy of what this particular section, that is the later part of the first Khanda, what is it, the Chaturmukha Brahma is giving Upadesha to Sadashiva. So, 5 verses, they're beautiful verses. In Yadvacha anabhyutitam yena abhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam edidam upasate yan manasa na manute yena ahur manomatam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam edidam upasate yach chakshusha na pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam viddhi na idam edidam upasate यच्छ्रोत्रेण न शृणोति येन श्रोत्रम् इदं श्रुतं तदेव ब्रह्मत्वं विद्धि नेदं यदिदमुपासते यत्प्राणेन न प्रणीति येन प्राणः प्रणीयते तदेव ब्रह्मत्वं विद्धि नेदं यदिदमुपासते. So in these 5 verses, we understood that the last line is pretty much the same for all the verse. So we were going to take the last line and deal with it separately. So what is the key message of this whole Kanda? That Brahman is unknowable fully by the senses and the mind. Okay, so that is the overarching, message that this particular khanda of this Upanishad is declaring. Guys, Brahman is unknowable fully by your senses and mind. Understand that limitation. Not only that, the Abhimani Devatas also cannot know this Brahman fully. The Abhimani Devatas are the senses and the mind is the resounding declaration by Chaturmukha Brahma to Sadashiva in this particular whole of this Kanda. But the speciality of the last 5 verses is the sequence in which things are being described by Chaturmukha is also very interesting. So he picks up speech, mind together, eyes and ears together, and breath separately. So in last satsang, in the last session, we actually had quite a detailed discussion, to be honest, about the first four. Yeah, the speech and mind. Why is the speech and mind together? Because speech Abhimani is Parvati, the organ of speech. So who is going to? It's a quick quiz here. Who is the Abhimani of the organ of speech? Who is going to answer that very quickly?
Agni.
Agni, fantastic. Thank you, Anandji. So the organ of speech is Agni, whereas the speech is Parvati, seventh in the Vedic rank. Then you have mind, Mano Abhimani Shiva, who is the fifth rank. So Parvati and Shiva. Shiva's consort is Parvati, so they go together. Then you have the eyes and the ears. Yeah, the eyes Abhimani is Surya, ears Abhimani is Chandra. So both of them in the 12th rank. And last week, Anandji reminded us that Chandra is a little bit on the higher rank compared to Surya, although they are in the same class. Okay, so these are the pairs that were described. And then the head of the Abhimanis. So this is interesting. So the breath is taken separately at the end. And there are no surprises why Chaturmukha has done this. Because the head of all the Tattva Abhimani Devatas, the head of all the Abhimani Devatas like Parvati, Manu, Rudra, Surya, and Chandra is our Prana Tattva or the third rank, who is a third of the Vedic pantheon. So Prana Tattva is dealt with separately because he is the Jivotama, he is the highest among the Tattva Abhimani Devatas. So again, it goes on to show you that whichever Upanishad that you take, yeah, Prana Tattva is always there in the Upanishads. Yeah, that is the foundation. Yeah, Prana Tattva is the head of the Tattva Abhimani Devatas. Is in every Upanishad you will have this concept. Yeah, it is only our fault that we don't look at it properly. Okay, but we should look at this, and that is why Prana Tattva is important because what is going on here? Chaturmukha Brahma was the prana in the previous creation. Okay, and the prana of this creation is going to be the Chaturmukha Brahma in the next creation. So they both are really important figures in Vedic pantheon. So Prana Tattva, the head of the Abhimani Deva, Tattva Abhimani Devatas, is dealt with separately. Okay, so as we looked at this last week, we looked at all these 5 verses, but then Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate comes 5 times in each verse. And then we understood from Brahma Sutra, the 4th verse said Tattu Samanvayat. And how do you do Shastra Samanvayas? There are Tatparya Lingas, right? The interpretation. Brihat Samhita Acharya has given us the reference for it. Okay. Upakrama, Upasamhara, Abhyaso, Apurvata, Phalam, Artavado, Upapatti cha Lingam, Tatparya Nirnaye, Brihat Samhita. Anvaya Upapatyadi Lingam, as Acharya says in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya. So this Abhyasa becomes really, really important. Okay, not to be underestimated. And we said this is a unique opportunity for us to actually put it in application. Whatever it is that the Brihat Samhita has said and Acharya has said and Vedavyasa has reminded us, here we have a set of 5 verses where Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi Nedam Edidam Upasate comes again. So this has to be a very important subject. It has to be a subject of immense importance, immense philosophical importance. What is that philosophical importance? We will see it in today's Chintana. And this is Abhyasa. Abhyasa is Avrittihi, that is reiteration, revision, not repetition, which is Punarukti. So you have to make a distinction between Avrittihi and Punaruktihi. Abhyasa and Punaruktis. Punarukti is a defect. Abhyasa is what we should all be doing. Abhyasena tu kaunteya, as Krishna says in the Gita. Okay, so that abhyasa is important. So what did we understand so far from the previous class? Yad vacha anabhyuditam yena vak abhyudyate. So the philosophy of that was what? Which cannot be expressed by the organ of speech, that which cannot be expressed by speech, that which cannot be conveyed through words fully. The Abhimani Devatas of walk do not know him fully. God is non-material. He does not need the help of organs of speech or the deity of speech to speak. And by whom organ of speech and deity of speech function. So those are all the philosophical ideas that are compressed in this beautiful line. Yad vacha anabhyuditam yena vak abhyudyate. Similarly, we have for our mind. Yeah, the mind cannot grasp, the material mind cannot grasp him fully or reach him fully. Abhimani devatas of the mind, Rudra, do not know him fully. God is non-material. He does not need material mind or the deity of mind to think. Similarly, by whom the material mind and the deities of mind function. Yen manasa na manute yena ahur manomatam. So similar kind of ideas, easy for us to grasp. Yet chakshusha na pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati, which cannot be seen by material eyes. The Abhimani Devatas of eyes, Surya does not know him fully. He is non-material. He does not need material eyes or the help of Surya to see his creation. Okay. So, yet chakshusha na pashyati yena chakshumshi pashyati. Then, yet shrotrena na shrunoti yena shrotram idam shrutam, which cannot be known by hearing through material ears. The Abhimani Devatas of hearing do not know him fully, that is Chandra and all the Dik Devatas. He is non-material, he does not need material ears to hear. But by whom? The material ears, the deity of hearing function, that is that Brahman, Tadeva Brahma. Yeah, Yet Shrotrena Nashrunoti, Yena Shrotram Idam Shrutam. So in every line here, you should include this Tadeva Brahma, Tadeva Brahma. Yadvacha Anabhyutitam Yena Vak Abhyudete, Tadeva Brahma. Yan Manasana Manute, Yena Ahur Manomatam, Tadeva Brahma. Yat Chakshusha Na Pashyati, Yena Chakshumshi Pashyati, Tadeva Brahma. यश्रोत्रेण न शृणोति येन श्रोत्रम इदम श्रुतम तदेव ब्रह्म. Okay, so that is how Chaturmukha is building this plot, and then he finally comes. Look, the speech, mind, and eyes and hearing, as we have already discussed, need something higher to function. There is the head of the Tattvabhimani Devatas, right? They need the head of the Tattvabhimani Devatas is the person who controls the whole. All of this is under his control. Yeah, that is the Abhimani Devatas and the material eyes are under his control. And we have seen this in a number of Upanishads. Shat Prashna Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, you name it. This Prana Tattva is all pervasive in all the Upanishads, as we have just seen a few minutes ago. So the fifth verse, today we are going to see the full fifth verse, do a full justice of the fifth verse. Last week we were a bit rushed, so we could not think about the fifth verse in the first line of the fifth verse in detail. Yat pranena na praniti yena pranaha praniyate. Okay, this is interesting. So the prana, the breath. Okay, so we are talking about the sadhana sharira, right? So we are talking about us as humans, and we got these various things in our face. And this is about the sadhana sharira of the humans, where there is this nose. Okay, so the nose is doing a couple of things here. One is nose is doing two things. Yeah, one is it's helpful to smell, and it also helps in breathing. So there are two aspects to the nose that our rishis, particularly Chaturmukha Brahma, wants us to have this contemplation. Okay. So let's think about the first one, because we're talking about the various jnana indriyas, right? So first thing that we have so far in the four, we have discussed the various jnana indriyas. Okay, we discussed the eyes, the hearing, and the eyes and the hearing and the mind. They are all jnana indriyas. So we've been thinking about that. So the function of the nose here is, one function is smell. So that is easy. A, which cannot be reached or understood by smelling, by smell. We can smell a rose, we can smell other things that are pleasant, but by doing that, we will not know Brahman. We may go to a temple and there may be all the flowers that may be fragrant. There may be all these, sandalwood and all this, udubatti and all that is all lit. They all may smell very good, but that is not Brahman. You cannot, by just smelling, you may not know him. Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Arasam, Agandavachayat Katha Upanishad. Remember that Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Avyayam, Tata, Arasam, Nityam, Agandavachayat. Agandavachayat. You cannot smell him. Yeah, so that is one idea. One idea when we talk about prana, and by prana we understand the nose, and from nose we can extrapolate and think about smell, and through smell we can't. Katha Upanishad has already given us that reason, that Yama has already taught to Nachiketa. Anadyantam mahata param dhruvam nichaya tan mrutyur mukhat pramuchate. He who knows this will never face Yama again, says Yama to Nachiketa. Okay, in that beautiful verse, you may remember. So the Abhimani Devatas of smell also do not know him fully. Okay, so here is a quick quiz. So who is going to tell us who is the Abhimani Devata of smell? There's a quick quiz and also for our contemplation.
Ashwini Devatas.
Ashwini Devatis. Thank you, Padmajaji and Srikanji. Thank you. Perfect answer. So the Ashwini twins. So they are the Abhimani, and that again, that is beautiful, isn't the nostril has got two orifices, right? And that is our Ashwini twins, Abhimani Devatas of smell. So here our Chaturmukha says even the Abhimani Devatas of smell, they are very low in the Vedic rank. Yeah. Anybody wants to tell us what is the Vedic rank of Ashwini twins? Quick quiz. No worries. Okay, you can do a bit of research, but they're very low in Vedic rank. Okay.
18, I think.
18, very good, Anandji. Yeah, much lower than Agni. Yeah, Agni, Vak, the organ of speech is Agni, right? He's 15, whereas 18 is Ashwini twins. So that which cannot be reached or understood by smelling, or the Ashwini twins do not have the knowledge of him. He is non-material and he does not need material nose to smell, or the help of Ashwini twins to smell everything in the universe. Okay, so that is the three levels. That is very easy from the smell. Okay. Now, when you look at the other function of the nose is breathing, right? We do pranayama. After all, we do pranayama through the nose. Dhyana, it is important during dhyana, of course. Now, the question is during dhyana, do you really get the knowledge of Paramatma? Most of our dhyana, to be honest, is a material construction. Yeah, the samprajnata sthiti is what most of us are all. The asamprajnata sthiti is a slightly different story altogether. So even in the dhyana state, we actually do not know him fully. Some people may claim that they see Brahman, but from Shastra's perspective, if you are in samprajnata sthiti, still in dhyana, you're having a material construct. So that is one important reason why this nose becomes interesting, because it is the part of pranayama. Then, of course, the most important thing about the nose is it helps in delivering oxygen to the lungs, and through the lungs, then it goes into circulation and it goes into all the cells and essential for metabolism, so that it allows the organs of eyes, the organs of hearing, the organs of speech to actually function in your body. So that breathing indirectly tells you about all the metabolism that needs to happen in the various sense organs, which is the point of discussion in the previous four, right? Including the mind. Mind needs a lot of energy. The brain consumes a lot of energy. Yeah. So breathing from that perspective becomes interesting and important, because if you don't have breathing, the sense organs don't function. Okay. So the controller of that breathing apparatus is whom? Mukhya prana. Yeah. Mukhya prana is the controller of the metabolic activity of the body, and then we have seen it in Isha Upanishad and other places. Okay, so when we talk about prana, it becomes very important for this particular Upanishad, because this is a conversation with Chaturmukha Brahma and Sadashiva. And as we discussed a minute ago, Chaturmukha Brahma was the prana in the previous life, and the current prana is going to become the Chaturmukha Brahma in the next creation. Okay, I, who was prana in the previous creation, and prana, who will be Chaturmukha Brahma in the next creation, are totally dependent on him, is what Chaturmukha Brahma is conveying to Sadashiva here, which does not breathe because of help of Mukhya Prana. Because Mukhya Prana himself, Pranad Vayu Rajayata, says Purusha Shukta. Even this Mukhya Prana comes from the Vayu comes from the Prana of Vishnu. So he himself, the Mukhya Prana, is dependent on him. He does not require Mukhya Prana to breathe, and by whom Mukhya Prana actually functions. So by this, an important message is delivered that even the highest among the Jivas, the Jivottamas, the Tattvabhimani, head of the Tattvabhimani Devatas, are also ultimately dependent on the Paramatma. Yet pranena na praniti, yena pranaha praniyate, tadeva Brahma. Okay. So if you can see from the whole Kanda, it talks about the plurality of the universe. And it talks about the taratamyas, the gradations of Vedic pantheon that exist in the universe. And it talks about the gradation of knowledge that exists in the universe. It talks about the gradation of entities that exist in the universe. So there is difference all over in this particular kanda. Yeah. So nobody can have an argument on that. This is categorically telling us there is difference everywhere. And the highest, the Swatantra entity is Vishnu, is what it is clearly saying. And the same thing, if you look at, we have done Katha Upanishad, right? When we did Katha Upanishad, we had these kind of beautiful verses. What did we have? Bayadasya Agnihi Tapati, Bayad Tapati Suryaha, Bayad Indrashcha, Vayushcha, Mrutyur Davati Panchamaha. So everybody is working under this Supreme Paramatma's control. Tattvabhimani Devatas do their duties in Brahmanda and Pindanda as dictated by Lord's constitution or orders. Okay, this is a key concept that we've discussed in Katha Upanishad, and of course there was another beautiful verse, isn't it? Yama himself tells Nachiketa, Yasya Brahma cha kshatram cha ube bhavata odanaha Mrutyurasya upasechanam ka ittaveda yatra saha. I am like a pickle for this Brahman. And all the other guys are like various foods. He just consumes them in Pralaya. What to say about his greatness is what Katha Upanishad Yama talks about him. Bishad asmad vatah pavate, Bishad udeti suryaha, Bisha asmad agnishta indrashta, Mrutyur dyavati panchama iti. So look at those. They are very similar verses. The Taittiriya Upanishad and the Katha Upanishad, they are all very, very similar verses. Pancha, five. So we had five verses here talking about the five entities also. So it becomes very interesting when we look at the Samanvaya of this. All the Upanishads declare the multiplicity of sentient beings, but all the atomic beings, the jivas, are dependent on the Paramatma. Is the clear statement of Taittiriya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, and of course we are doing our beautiful Talavakara Upanishad. Manasaiva idam aptavyam nehananasti kinchana. I just want to remind you of this very, very important verse. So we have said that this Brahman does not require any of the other, it doesn't require the organs of speech, it doesn't require the organs of eyes, organs of hearing, organs of smell, and so on. And it doesn't breathe. It's saying all these things because, and he doesn't need anybody. Through its eyes it can hear, through its hearing it can taste, and all that is these kind of very puzzling things that the Vedas and the Upanishads talk about, essentially talk about the achintya adbhuta shakti of Brahman. But when these concepts are happening and discussed in the Upanishad, we should never forget that there are no internal distinctions in Brahman or his avatars. There is absolutely no difference. His eyes, hearing, speech, mind are non-material and non-different from each other. Okay, the moment we start saying, oh, he's got eyes and nose and stuff, we are doomed. Yeah, we fall down. Durge, so from a tall mountain, how the water falls, like that we will fall down, has warned Yama. Okay, so never forget this. Manasaiva idam aptavyam nehananasti kinchana mrityosa mrityum gacchati ya iha naneva pashyati. Why? Because he is Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Avashishyate. He is infinite, he is full, he can do whatever thing that he feels. His eyes can be his ears, his hearing can be his touch and taste and whatever. Okay. If we start making internal difference in Brahman, this is what is going to happen to us. We fall down and go through the material pool. Yeah, mrutyoho samrutyum apnoti. Mrutyo samrutyum means andatamas. Yeah, that is the meaning there. Mrutyo samrutyum is andatamas. We go to andatamas. Yet some people make that distinction. I just wish that they follow the message of Katha Upanishad very carefully. Some people make differences in various avatars of Rama is this, Krishna is that, and they make those differences. When you hear that, you really feel sad because our Yama has clearly taught, don't do that, don't do that. Krishna and Rama are all the same thing. Yeah. Who is that Purna? Yeah. If we make the distinction, we fall down. So that is another key message that we have to always remind ourselves when we have gone through these five verses. So what has happened now? We have done the five verses, right? And then in each first line, he said, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi. That is that Brahman. Tat eva. Eva means, when eva comes in the middle, it means stresses something verily. That is very important for us to remember. That verily is Brahman. That one which does not require anything, that one which no material thing can reach, that one which none of the Abhimani Devatas can know fully, that one which doesn't require any material things, that one which doesn't require any Abhimani Devatas because it is independent, Tad Eva Brahma. 5 times, Tadeva Brahma, Tadeva Brahma. Okay, and of course, in our satsang, we are very familiar what that Brahma means. Not Chaturmukha Brahma. Here, Chaturmukha Brahma is having the Chaturmukhi is having a conversation with Panchamukhi about Brahman. Atakasmad uchyate brahmeti bruhanto hi asmin gunaha Brahma Shabdashta Vishnaveva, as Acharya has said, and we should never ever forget that. This entity that is all pervasive in time, space, and attributes. Exactly the same that Acharya has said. This Brahman is Vishnu. Okay, there is nothing called Nirguna Brahman and Saguna Brahman. There is only one Brahman, and he is Vishnu, as declared in Katha Upanishad and many other places, both in the Vedas and elsewhere. So, quick quiz: etymology of Vishnu. So, who is going to remind us what Vishnu means? What is the etymology of Vishnu? It's not a guy with four hands with Shankhu, Chakra, Gada. Yes, maybe, but that is not Vishnu. Vishnu has got an etymological meaning. So, who is going to tell us who is Vishnu?
Um, uh, so Vishnu means who has created and pervaded throughout the universe.
Thank you, Saptarshi. Yeah, so elaborate on that, or if anybody else wants to go, what is the Sanskrit etymology of Vishnu? How do you do that? So Vishal Vyapta, you're right, thanks for that contribution. So Vishal Vyapta, that which is all pervasive, is called Vishnu. Okay, that is one easy etymology that we can grasp, and that exactly is Brahman. Yeah. Tamho vacha yato va imani bhutani jayante ena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanchi tad vijijnasasva tad brahmeti. Taittiriya Upanishad. That entity who is the creator of everything. That guy is Brahmeti. Okay. So these guys here, he is actually the creator of all this. Okay. So that is why he is called Brahma. And of course, Brahma also has got other, important etymologies. Ata kasmad uchyate brahmeti, brihati, brahmayati, cheti. That which is big. That which is big is called Brahman. Okay? That which is big means what? Big in time, space, and attributes. And that's how you kind of understand that Brahman is big. There are very many Brahmans in Vedic philosophy, right? But here Brahman means our Vishnu. That is why our Veda Vyasa said Atato Brahma Jignasa. He didn't say Vishnu Jignasa. He said Atato Brahma Jignasa, so that we get a very broad concept of who this Brahman is. And of course, you establish who that Brahman that is described by Veda Vyasa, who is an incarnation of Vishnu himself. Okay. So this entity is Brahman Tvam Vidhi. You realize this. Who is telling this? Chaturmukha is telling this to Sadashiva, and through Sadashiva to all of us. Remember, this is the situation. We don't own the sense organs. We don't own the material universe. Everything is owned and created by him, and everything is controlled by him. Okay, this is, you need to get this basics right, but yet most of us don't get the basics right, so we go round and round in material world. Okay, so here comes the next important concept that this particular 5 verses talk about. So what has he said so far? All the 5 things, and said Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi. You know that is Brahman. Then gives a caution. Nedam Yadidam Upasate. Okay. Tadeva Brahma Tvam Vidhi. 5 times. That verily is Brahman. Nedam. Nedam, not this. Na idam equals Nedam. Not this. Chaturmukha says. That entity which is beyond matter, which is beyond all the Abhimani Devatas, is Brahman, but not this. Nedam, Yadidam Upasate. Common folks, like including most of us in this satsang, what are we doing? We are doing some upasana of something, but actually that is not Brahman. Nedam yadidam upasate. Nedam, na idam, not this what? Not this matter in front of us that we are doing upasana. That is not what that Brahman is. It's a very important, deep philosophical idea of our rishis. Yadidam upasate, what are we doing upasana in front of us? So we do upasanas of things. Somehow we take things, the gross things in the universe. Yeah. So we take the gross things. What are the gross things? Gross things are the things that is visible to our eyes, which is earth, fire. We don't do any upasana of water, but we do upasana of earth and fire. And our Upanishad say, and our Vedic philosophy is fire is an important symbol for worship of Paramatma. So we do a lot of yajnas and stuff. Fire, we do a lot of fire rituals through fire. Then through earth, what have we done? Earth could be so many things. It could be wood, it could be stone, It could be a gem or it could be a metal like Panchaloha and so on. What have we done? We have kind of taken this earth and we have made it into various forms and we worship. Okay, it could be a metal form of something, a gem form of something, or a stone form of something, or the wood form of something. We worship. We go to all these pilgrimages, we go to temples, we stand in endless queues. It's all totally chaotic, but still we go and do some, archana and whatever, puja, gija, whatever you name it. We do all this and we do upasate. Yadidam upasate. Chaturmukha saying, you know the ones that you're doing upasana, yadidam upasate, these all these material objects, the fire, nedam, not this. That is not Brahman. Okay. Very, very clear statement of our rishis, of the Upanishads and the Samhitas, again and again. Nedam, nedam. Okay. So, but what is happening? Hindus seem to be worshipping all this in contrast to what Upanishad has told so far. This is what we are doing. Some people get so fanatic about this, and we have forgotten the basic idea of why is it that our rishis have asked us to do this pratikas, but we have taken the pratikas themselves as Brahman, and we have become a little distracted, I think, or not we, but there is a vast majority out there who have actually forgotten the clarion call of the Upanishads, saying that Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi na idam yadidam upasate. What you are worshipping is not Brahman, is not Brahman. Okay. So I've just put this very contentious issue for today's discussion so that we have a conversation about what is it that's going to, are Hindus idolaters? We have seen hundreds of years of various invasions and so on based on this particular idea that Hindus are idolaters. Okay. Are we really idolaters? If we take up the message of the Upanishads, are we really idolaters? If some fellow comes and challenges, how are we going to answer these kind of questions? Particularly when this Upanishad says, Na idam yadidam upasate. So who wants to, it'd be nice if folks can contribute here. Are we really idolaters? How should we be even contemplating on this fire? How should we be contemplating on all these, some people call it as idols. It's an unfortunate word, but deities, you could say deities. So how do we approach this? Who wants to take it up? Sudarshan.
No, I mean, Madhu, I think I agree with that part where, people are doing it without knowing what it is. But at least the ritualistic part, it's going to give some palan, isn't it? Some palan, or what do you call in English? So it's going to give some result. Whether if you do it with full knowledge, it's going to give 100% result, but at least it will be giving some 20-30%. And also it keeps it going as a ritual until maybe we hear it from somebody like you or other Swamijis, and then we know the full meaning, and then we'll do it. Because what happens is, sometimes if we do not do this ritual at all, then okay, God is there everywhere. God is, you don't need to pray to him. He's very kind. Why should you pray to him? That part of the ritualistic discipline goes down, and that can itself lead to a decay of your daily life. You might replace with something else, which will make you go down, even down, so that you're not even spiritual anymore. So we run the risk of that. So either we preserve this and improve, rather than collapse this and then people. And also, I think the common man likes rituals. Common man likes rituals. Like, you want to be identified with something. It is like watching the cricket match. Like, I mean, not everybody can be very good players, but you watch it with some lot of like regularity, and you enjoy it. It's something like that keeps it going until somebody decides, I want to be a professional cricket player as well, and then he does it. So, I mean, that is my take anyway. I mean, I probably listen to other people, but also with regards to people who call us like you are idolaters. So I think this is, if it is somebody like knowledgeable calls us, like you tell us like you're idolaters, you should be really, having the knowledge and do that, is fine. I'll agree. But somebody from a lower level, somebody who hasn't got any knowledge and who is very violent and who hasn't got any clue, and then he's saying that, then I won't agree with that, but at least because he's completely ignorant. and he cannot tell me that like I'm an idolater because he hasn't got any clue. So yeah, again, my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sudarshan. Lots of very interesting points. Anybody else wants to come in and share their ideas?
Can
Shaptarshi.
I? Yeah.
Go for it, Shaptarshi, and then we'll come to Anand.
Okay, so yeah, my idea is, so basically, as God has pervaded throughout the universe and in every entity, so God is the Antaryamin of all the entities. And the second point is, as He has taken several avatars. Okay, so He somehow making it easier for us so that we can somehow hold Him based on our capabilities. And mainly, we are in the deity also. We are making the deities of the avatars and all, who are there, and it's a symbol which are reminding us of the Brahman, because we cannot see him with the material eyes, right? So it is somehow he's making it easy for us. And also, I was reading in one Upanishad, it's called Atma Bodha Upanishad. There it is saying that Vishnu has this Shankha Chakra Gada, and also basically some ideas which we can somehow in based on our capabilities we can get hold of him. Yeah, that's my idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Saptarshi. Anand and then Ajit. Anand.
Yeah, are Hindus idolaters? I don't think we are idolaters. We do not worship metals. We do not worship gem. We do not worship stone or wood. What we worship is, as you defined, Vishnu is Vishal Vyapta. And like Saptarshi said, he is pervading everywhere. So we worship the God who is pervading in that metal, in that gem, in that stone, in that wood. So the contemplation or the upasana should be not worshipping the stone itself. It is the God who is pervading the whole universe, and that should be our upasana, and that's the way we are idolaters.
Beautiful, Anandji. Ajit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in similar vein is to say that to get to the stage of being able to think about the Brahman who is beyond material, you need something to focus on initially. And I think that's where the role of the deities and, as you said, the pratikas and the symbols come into place. But it's unfortunate that some of us may just stay at that level and don't tend to progress beyond. So, yeah, I mean, I would agree that we're not idolaters in that sense, but then we have these symbols and pratikas for the Brahman, and we all need to try and achieve something beyond the material form.
Excellent. Thank you, Ajit. Thank you so much. Harshad and then Prakashji.
Namaste. I mean, wonderful views by everybody. The way I view idol worship is that it's a bit like having a pratik of something we don't really quite understand or don't have it in our grasp. For example, having a photograph of somebody that we love, father, mother, wife, son, daughter, whatever it is. That person may not be with us at that point in time, but the photo is a resemblance, a reminder, and it satisfies our finite elements to understand an infinite object. That was my humble point.
Very beautifully put, Harshadji. Thank you. Prakashji.
Okay. We have electricity everywhere, but we are not able to perceive it. But when we have a dam and then we bring the water and then when we produce energy, we see the power of the electricity. Similarly, when you go to Tirupati or someplace like that, that is, we call it as Sannidhana. That is like, it is a concentration of the Bhagavan's energy in there, and we can feel it. So the pratika is also important. We don't, like what you said, it is not an idol, because other people accuse us that we are looking at a side, but it is pratima. Pratima is totally different from idol. And also the Brahma Sutra says, na pratike na sahi. It's only a pratika. It's only a representation, not an idol. So there is a major difference in the language and how we use it. So just that electricity example itself enough to prove that our way of look is, I mean, our way to conceive that is totally different. And when you go to a place like Tirupati, we're able to see that the Bhagavan's presence there. So that is my few take on that.
Fantastic, amazing discussion, giving an overarching view, stating categorically, at least from this satsang, that Hindus are not idolaters. If some folks think that we are idolaters, it is their ignorance, number one, as Sudarshan put it, but also we have not articulated how we approach this problem, I don't think we have done our own justice. There's always two sides to the coin. One is ignorance from the other part. The other one is maybe we have not explained ourselves properly. So if we put both these things together, at least from our satsang's perspective, Hindus are not idolaters. Okay. But what are they? And as Prakash ji very, very interestingly reminded us, our founding father, Veda Vyasa, the founder of Uttara Mimamsa, which is the Vedantic system that we follow, which is what we call a Sanatana Dharma. And Veda Vyasa in the fourth Adhyaya, he puts a very, very important sutra that I just want to remind, and as Prakash ji has already reminded us of this. Na pratike nahi saha. This is Veda Vyasa, Narayana's incarnation in the Brahma Sutra, making it very, very clear. Pratika is not Brahman. Okay, na pratike. Okay. And then see what he said. Na he stresses. Na he saha. Saha means that Brahman is not this pratika. Na pratike. Na he saha. Okay, so there is a very, very important sutra of Badarayana where he said, Pratikas is not Brahman. Okay, so but we need to be very mindful of that when we do our worships, when we go to temple and we go to Tirupati, as Prakash ji said, see the divine energy there, but not that thing as pratika. That is a view of that is what is Badarayana has reminded us. Na pratike nahi saha. Okay, so the role of symbols in Hindu worship, we have discussed this, beautifully contributed by so many of us in this satsang. Material object is not Brahman. Okay, material objects not this Brahman. Na idam. Why? And we have done this in Taittiriya Upanishad, right? So akamayat bahusyam prajaye iti satapo atapyata satapas taptva idam sarvam asrujata yadidam kincha tat shrushtva tadeva anupravishata. Everything that he creates, he pervades. So he is there in this metal object, he is there in the object of the gem, he is there in the stone, he is there in this wood, he is there in the fire. As long as we are mindful of that, our worship is fine. Okay. But if we say, oh, I will just look at the stone and say, oh, please do something, that is idolatry. But if you say, look, there is a pervasion. We appreciate the omnipresence and omnipotency of Paramatma in these objects. We appreciate, we worship, and we adore that, then that becomes a proper worship. But if we just take these jadas as God, then that will be our downfall. So that is the caution that is being given here when he says na idam yadidam upasate. Those who worship this, na idam, it is not that. What is it? It is that has actually pervaded these objects. That is what you need to worship. Be it fire or be it all these objects made of earth. So this is an important message that I think we have to keep on stressing. The more the folks hear this, the better Hindus they become. Okay, rather than going through these mundane temples and looking at something and feel that they have done their bits and then come back. Yes, Sudarshan is right. That is the first step towards progression, but we should not stop there. We should go beyond, take that additional steps until you reach that 18th step, not stop at the first step and then get back with your archana or whatever you are doing. Try and understand and appreciate the omnipresence and omnipotency of God is the key message of this particular verse, napratike nahi saha, which I wanted to remind you. And then look at it from another perspective. Jivas are not this Brahman. Okay, that is another important point that our Chaturmukha Brahma is teaching Sadashiva. Na idam yadidam upasate. There are folks who think they themselves are Brahman and worshipping themselves. And they are also looking at other jivas that are out there. They may be exalted jivas. Okay, but they are also not this Brahman. You are not, the jiva is not this Brahman. All the Tattvabhimani Devatas are not this Brahman, because that is what this whole 5 verses talked about, various Tattvabhimani Devatas, and he said, no, he is not this, he is something different, he is something different. So the Tattvabhimani Devatas are not him. By implication, Tattvabhimani Devatas are also Jivas. So Jivas are not Brahman. Okay, from this particular discussion, Nedam Yadidam Upasate. This idea becomes very important in the next khanda. The next kanda, the 4 verses, the 5 verses that are discussed there, they pick up these ideas about, and we will think about, ideas of Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, and all this. So those are all verses. How do you interpret and understand? And if we get into the language of the Upanishads, I don't think there will be a confusion. Here, Chaturmukha has clearly said, Nedam yadidam upasate, jivas are not Brahman. Okay, the Tattvabhimani devatas are not Brahman. Some people think that there are all these the god men that are roaming around with long beards. Some people think they themselves are Brahmans. Okay, these are all the sad situation that we have. We cannot deny that state of reality. Of people have forgotten the message of the Upanishads and they are madly going after these god men, thinking them as God. Okay? Our Upanishad is very clear. Nedam yadidam upasate. Okay. Hindus are not idolaters. The Upanishad is very, very, very clear when it says the Jiva is not Brahman. Tattvabhimani Devatas are not Brahman. In fact, our famous Katha Upanishad again, the Hamsa Gayatri gives us that idea. Where is the omnipresence of Paramatma? Hamsaha, Suchishat, Vasu, Antarikshasad, Hota, Vedishad, Atitir, Duronashad, Nrishad, Varashad, Rutashad, Vyomashad, Abja, Goja, Adrija, Ritaja, Ritam, Brihat. So 18 places where Yama teaches Nachiketa where the Antaryamitva of Brahman needs to be worshipped. 18 places Yama gives to Nachiketa and starts with Hamsaha Suchishat. The highest symbol that you worship is this Shuchi, the pure being, or the Prana Tattva that is being described in the 9th verse here. That is the highest pratika or symbol in whom you can worship Brahman. This Mukhya Prana is not Brahman, but inside him is this Antaryamin who is Brahman, and this Mukhya Prana is the highest symbol, says Katha Upanishad. Okay. So I hope you're able to capture those various deep ideas there. But then the important thing is, having spoken so much about how we have to approach pratikas, the Upanishads also says, but pratika based worship is essential for us. Very, very clear statement from Mundaka Upanishad. You may remember the last few verses talks about pratikalambanas and apratikalambanas. Okay, so here I just put a quiz here. For mundane souls like us, that pratika worship is essential, says the Vedas, but in the right approach, saying that there is Paramatma inside. He is omnipresent, omnipotent. That is one I'm worshipping. That kind of a pratika upasana is very, very essential because the Vedas classify jivas into various types. Pratikalambanas and apratikalambanas. So anybody wants to share their ideas about who are pratikalambanas and who are apratikalambanas? No worries. So let's do that. So this is you may remember in Mundaka Upanishad that the final portions we did Karyadikaranam. Check that out in Brahma Sutras. Okay. The journey of various types of souls that are being discussed in Brahma Sutra. Okay. So souls like you and me who are in this satsang, we need a pratika because we are such limited beings. If you remember, we did the Kevala Pramana, Anupramana, and the Kevala Pramana, we discussed about our clarity of knowledge and how low it is and so on and so forth. So we need some symbol because we are such limited beings. We need some semblance. We are dependent on symbols, but with the right approach. So we are called pratikalambanas. Okay. If we do as dictated in the Shastras, that the pratikalambanas do that worship in the right perspective, what will happen eventually with us like pratikalambanas, we will shed all our karmic imprints and so on, and then we follow the path of Devayana. Yeah, and then we go to Satyaloka. That is what Mundaka Upanishad talks about. Whereas all these Tattvabhimani Devatas, right, these Tattvabhimani Devatas that have been described so far in the 5 verses, what happens to them? Okay. They are called Apratikalambanas. So they are such exalted beings that they have the capacity to understand and worship the omnipresence of Brahman. Okay. But you and I, we don't have that kind of capacity. We need a symbol. Okay. Deva Vaha Sarva Prakashaha Rishayo Antaha Prakashaha Manushya eva brahihi prakashaha. Chaturveda Shikashruti. Srimad Acharya has given us this reference so that we are very careful with regards to how we do that worship. Manushya eva brahihi prakashaha. We search for symbols of Brahman externally. And then through that we understand his omnipresence. And then through that we make our spiritual journey, and eventually we'll go to Satyaloka. Whereas these guys, the Apratikalambanas, eventually what will happen is at the end of this creation, they go to the Amukta Sthana of Vishnu Loka. This is where the Jaya and Vijaya are there. Okay, Jaya Vijaya are not in Vaikuntha. That is another fallacy that exists out there. No, Jaya Vijaya, they are in the Amukta Sthana of Vishnu Loka. Okay, that is why they are able to come down as those three, in three yugas they come, they have three incarnations, isn't it? We are all very familiar. Because if you go to Vaikuntha, there is no return. Yeah, Anavrittir Shabdat has declared our sutra, and in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Na Punaravartate, Nacha Punaravartate has said the Upanishads. If you go to Vaikuntha, you never come back. Okay, if these two guys, Jaya Vijaya, are in Vaikuntha, then they will never come back. So they are actually Amukta Sthana of Vishnu Loka, the entrance to Vishnu Loka, where all these Tattvabhimanita devatas go. So that's how you reconcile those kind of issues. So, but there was a slight distraction there. But the point I was trying to make here is Pratikalampanas are us, and we make that direction that way. Tattvabhimani devatas make a different direction. Okay, ne idam. This conversation is happening because ne idam, nedam yadidam upasate. But here is a challenging problem. I hope we have another maybe 10, 13 minutes to deal with this. But the Vedas declare that God is everything. Okay. So far we said ne idam. This God is the Paramatma is not this material things. This metal gem and everything is not Paramatma. But the same Vedas declare that Brahman is everywhere. And I've kind of put those verses together because it really is interesting discussion. And I would like to, at this point, I'd like to pay my respects and obeisance to Professor Prabhanjanacharya, who has actually given us a right approach as to how we need to look at this. So what am I trying to get at? So Kena Upanishad has said, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. Contrast that with Chandogya Upanishad. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma Tajjala Niti Shanta Upasita. Isha Upanishad. Isha Vasyam Idang Sarvam. Purusha Shukta. Purusha Eva Idang Sarvam. Here it's saying Nedam, na idam. But here it's saying Purusha Eva Idam Sarvam. Everything is this Brahman. Appears to be like that. Look at Gita 7:18. Can we get one of us to recite 7:18, please? Who wants to recite this beautiful verse from chapter 17? Anandji, you want to do that, please?
Yeah. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavam mam prapadyate vasudevas sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha.
Thank you, Anandji. Vasudevaha Sarvam. That important verse. Krishna is everything. Vasudeva. Krishna himself is saying Vasudevaha Sarvam. Okay. Mandukya Upanishad. Omiti etad aksharam idam sarvam. This aksharam is idam sarvam. Okay, so I hope you're able to see that there appears to be conflicting views. Here it says, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. But there are 5 other places I've told you where it says Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Purusha Eva Idam Sarvam. Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. Aksharam Idam Sarvam. Okay, so how do you reconcile this? What is the Samanvaya here? Here it is saying that which is in front of you is not this Brahman. But then there are other verses which says all that is in front of you is Brahman. Vasudeva is everything. Isha is everything. Purusha is everything. Akshara is everything. And I put a query there, question mark. Okay. So this we need to be very careful when we look at these kind of verses of the Upanishads. As some folks do, Mayavadins are very good at this. Pluck the verse, pluck the set of words completely out of context and build an airy-fairy castle. Okay. But that is not what our Upanishads are saying. Let me take you through this very, very important verse. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. of Chandogya Upanishad, which has been taken to show that Brahman alone exists. Material world is mithya, so it cannot be Brahman. Okay, so this particular verse, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Sarvam, Kalu means definitely, 100%, for sure is Kalu. Idam Brahma. Sarvam Idam Brahma. When it says, the Mayavadins would say, material world is mithya. It cannot be Brahman. Okay, so Brahman alone exists, so Brahman is everything. Okay, that is their view of this particular Vakya. Tattvavada, material world is Jada, so it cannot be Brahman. All spiritual things also cannot be Brahman, because in this verse itself we have understood that jivas are atomic and limited, so jivas are not Brahman. So when it says Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, what is it that is being described here? Because material world cannot be Brahman, because the same Upanishad has said the definition of Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. He is a sentient being full of knowledge and perfection. He is not a Jada. So there itself there is a problem. But the verse seems to suggest the Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. So how do you understand this? So there are two approaches to it. Let's see if we can do some justice over the next eight minutes, and then we can always come back to this. Approach one, the meaning of Sarvam actually is very different. Okay. So in Gita 11:40, yeah, we are all very familiar with this, where Krishna himself gives what is the definition of Sarvam. Sarvam means not everything. Sarvam sam apnoshi tato asi sarvaha. Apnoshi, sam apnoshi, some samyak apnoshi. Apnoshi means pervasion, fully pervaded. So that which is fully pervaded is called sarvaha. Sarvam paripurnam. Sarvatra prasiddha upadeshat, as Brahma Sutra says. Srimad Acharya says, Sarvam tad adhinatvat tat sarvamiti uchyate. Sarvam gunapurnatvat. Okay, so these are all the meanings of Sarvam. So when you look at that word Sarvam, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma in that sense means this guy is all pervasive. That entity, this one that is in front of you as your Antaryamin, who is all pervasive, he is called Brahma. That is one meaning of that. Not to say that only Brahman alone exists and that nothing else exists. Okay. Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma means that entity which is all pervasive is called Brahman. Okay, so that is one way of looking at it. And similarly, you look at that Vasudevaha Sarvam. Vasudeva is all pervasive. Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. Aksharam Idam Sarvam. This Akshara is all pervasive. Purusha Eva Idam Sarvam. Purusha is all pervasive. That is one way of understanding this. But the more important way of understanding this, and we got about 6 minutes, let's do this, because this becomes important, as I said, again, when we come to the second khanda. Yeah, and this is a key concept, yeah, which somehow our monastic philosophers have conveniently forgotten the basic Paninian grammar. Yeah, they've forgotten this when they make this interpretation, and yet they feel that others should accept this. 100% not, because if you're a sincere student of Vedanta and you want to put grammar into your understanding, here is another meaning. Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Khalu, as I said, is definite. Sarvam Idam Brahma. Vasudevaha Sarvam. Okay. Brahma and Vasudeva, they are nouns. So the rule is called Saptasu Pratama. Okay. That is the Paninian grammar there. The nominative case. So in nouns, there are various cases. The Sanskrit grammar is where the English grammar comes from. Okay. The Sanskrit gives you Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturtha, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami. Okay. 7 cases of nouns. So the view of Paninian grammar is nominative case has the meaning of all other cases also. Okay, so that is how you have to take this, is Brahma and Vasudeva has to be put in various cases: nominative case, accusative case, instrumental case, dative case, ablative case, genitive case, and locative case, and then understand what is the deep philosophy that these verses are giving. And I would request you to go to Professor Prabhanjana Acharya's expert commentary lecture that he gave about a couple of years ago, where he has dealt with this in great detail for us. This is what is the meaning here. Vasudevaha sarvam. Vasudeva is independent. Brahma idam sarvam. Brahman is independent. Vasudevam prati sarvam. Everything is there for the sake of Vasudeva. Accusative case. Brahmani idam sarvam. Everything is there for the sake of Vasudeva or Brahman only. Vasudevena sarvam. Because of him, everything exists. Brahmana idam sarvam. When it says sarvam kalu idam Brahma, you read it as Brahmana idam sarvam. Because of him, everything exists. Vasudevaya sarvam. Everything we do is for the sake of Vasudeva. Brahmane idam sarvam. What everything we do is for the sake of Brahman. Vasudevat sarvam. Everything is done by Vasudeva because he is the independent Karta. Brahmanaha idam sarvam. Everything is done by Brahman. Vasudevasya sarvam. Everything belongs to Vasudeva. Brahmanaha idam sarvam. Everything belongs to Brahman. Vasudeve sarvam. Everything is in Vasudeva. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. Everything is in Vasudeva. Brahmanaha idam sarvam. Everything is in Brahman. Yeah. Then of course this verse goes on. Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. Finding such a person is very rare. And of course our Chandogya Upanishad then puts a beautiful verse there. Tajjalan iti shanta upasita. Even the tat jalan is etymologically very, very, very important. Tat, that, jala, an, ja, janaka, he who is the creator, la, laya, he who is the destroyer, ana, he who is the controller. Jalan does not mean water. Jalan talks about the creatorship of Brahman. That person is Brahman, Jalan, who is the creator of this universe. Yeah. Sarvam kalvidam Brahma tajjalan shanta iti upasita. Do your upasana like that. Is the meaning of that. Not that sarvam kalu idam Brahma, that Brahman is everything. Okay. And similarly, not Vasudeva is sarvam. Vasudeva is not everything. Okay. Nedam and Vasudeva sarvam. Nedam sarvam kalu idam Brahma. When you put Shaptasu Pratama in the equation, there is a complete samanvaya. They are not contradictory. They say the same thing. So never forget about this Saptasu Pratama. Yeah, why? Sa esha anima aitadatmyam idang sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketo 9 times. So here is a quick quiz. Which Upanishad is talking about it 9 times? Who is going to tell us? And which chapter? Quick quiz.
Chandogya.
Chandogya. Thank you very much, GVG. Chandogya Upanishad is put this line 9 times. Yeah. So that 9 times means what? Here it is only 5 times. Yeah. Tadeva Brahma Tvam Viddi Neidam Yadidam Upasate 5 times. Whereas in Chandogya 9 times. That is not Punarakti. That is Avrutti, Abhyasa. It is an important philosophical concept. So how do you understand Neidam Yadidam Upasate? Very similar to how you understand Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. Simple grammar. Our Acharya has given us the clear direction with regards to how we should understand this. There you separate this Sa Atma Tattvamasi. There the Atma Tattvamasi can become Atma Atatvamasi Shvetaketo. That is one view. Atatvam Asi Shvetaketo. You are not that. Okay. So, atat tvam asi, you are not that Shvetaketu. I'm giving you these 9 examples and talking about the greatness of this Brahman. You are not that. This is exactly what our Chaturmukha Brahma is telling Sadashiva. Na idam yadidam upasate, na idam, atat tvam asi Shvetaketu. You can also use this as tat tvam asi Shvetaketu. There the tat, you put Shaptasu Pratama of Paninian grammar. Tat Adina, Tat Sadrishya, Tasmin, Tasma, Tasmai, Tasya, Tat Prati, Tvam Asi Shvetaketu. So that is the way of looking at it rather than saying I am Brahman, which is not what Chaturmukha has said. This is not the direction of the Chandogya Upanishad, which has repeated this 9 times. Okay. So then what do you do with this? So then where is that Brahman? If you are saying he is not Brahman, he is not Brahman, he is not Brahman, then Sadashiva can be said, you are confusing me, Chaturmukha Brahma. Where on earth is he? He is not this. But yad idam upasate 5 times. It is this. Yad idam upasate. What is that beauty? That is the beauty of Sanskrit of compressing these ideas. Yad idam upasate. Upa asate. Upa, that which is very close to you. Sadashiva, that which is very close to you. That is that Brahman, not the one that you're seeing outside. That is not that which is very close to you. So the answer is in the verse itself, and again 5 times gives you that important concept of antaryamitva that we have discussed quite a lot in today's satsang. Yadidam upasate, yad idam upasate, upasate, that which is very close to you. Dva suparna sayuja sakaya samana vriksham parishashva jate tayor anyaha pippalam swadatti anashnan anyaha abhichakashiti. They are the 2 guys, right? Birds. They are like friends. This guy is a friend of this guy, but we are facing externally. And we are searching for Brahman in all the material things. Na idam. Yad idam upa asate. That which is very close to you is what you should look at it. Which comes directly, takes us to the bimba pratibimba bhava. Rupam rupam pratirupo babuvah tadasya rupam pratichakshanaya indro mayabihi purarupa iyate yukta hi asya harayah shatajah. Every jiva has got its bimbarupa paramatma who is inside him as his antaryamin, which is what we should be looking for. Exactly the idea of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where there is an antaryami Brahmanam itself. And what I have done is I picked up all the things that have been said in Kena Upanishad, where our antaryami Brahman of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad say the same thing. Yadvachi tishtan vacho antaro yam vak Veda yasya vak shariram yo vacham antaro yamayati eshata atma antaryami yo manasi yash chakshushi yash shrotre yap prane tishtan pranad antaro yam prano na veda yasya pranaha shariram yap prana antaro yamayati yeshata atma antaryami amrutaha. So they all talk the same thing. Mundaka Upanishad, Rig Veda, Antaryami Brahmana, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Kena Upanishad. It just depends on how we look at it, and we should be eternally grateful to Srimad Acharya for actually giving us the right direction with regards to how we need to understand this, rather than just pluck 1 or 2, maybe 5 and say this is the foundation of Vedic philosophy, and I'll build an airy fairy castle around this. No, everything is Mahavakya. Every word of the Vedas are important. And when you put that, you get a full samanvaya here. Okay. So on that note, we have finished the first kanda of the Upanishad, where so far we understood that Brahman cannot be known through the senses and the mind. Whereas the second kanda talks about the infinitude of Brahman cannot be known by anyone. Okay, so that is another important concept that Chaturmukha is going to be teaching us in the next chapter. The unknowability of Brahman's infinite glory. Okay, so the language of this kanda is just it's very complicated. Yadi manyase suvedeti dakhramevapi nunam tvam vetta brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshu atanumimamsyamevate manye viditam na aham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonas tadveda no na vedeti vedacha yasya amatam tasya matam yasya na veda saha अविज्ञातं विज्ञानतां विज्ञातं अविजानतां प्रतिबोध विदितं मतम् अमृतत्वं हि विन्दते आत्मना विन्दते वीर्यं विद्यया विन्द्यते अमृतम्. The 4 verses, they are real tongue twisters, and each line and word needs to be split so carefully to understand what is it that Chaturmukha is telling Sadashiva. And that is the beauty of the Upanishad, because it is secret knowledge as well as sacred knowledge. The secret knowledge here, how do we understand? By splitting it open, by doing the Chadayanti, and then get into what is it, the philosophy that Chaturmukha Brahma is teaching Sadashiva. So we will pick up on the, we'll move to the second kanda next week. So on that note, I'll close today's satsang. Thank you very much for what was a wonderful interactive session. Hare Krishna, and we'll take up any questions if we have any at this point of time. Excellent. So looks like we have no questions, but remember, summarize, na idam sarvam kalvidam brahma. So today we understood some new ideas about sarvam kalvidam brahma, how that should be interpreted. How do you interpret Tattvamasi 9 times and so on? Everything is related. So the Samanvaya, never forget that. Then we understand what is true knowledge. Yeah. Okay. On that note, Krishna Pranamastu. So can I call upon Anandji to recite the Om today and close today's session, please?
Okay.
Thank you, Anandji, and thanks to everyone for an amazing interactive session. We'll catch up again next Sunday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.